I ended my 20-year marriage after learning my wife cheated recently. Through one of my wife's friends, I stumbled upon a painful truth. She had been unfaithful to me for the entire 20 years of our marriage. This discovery led me to make the heart-wrenching decision to end our relationship. My wife is 44, and I'm 43. We've been married for 2 decades, ever since we were high school sweethearts. She was a senior, and I was a junior. Our journey began in high school, and we navigated a long-distance relationship during her first 2 years of college while I finished high school and spent a year at community college. Eventually, we both attended college in the same city, and from there, our lives became inseparable. We married right after I graduated college, and for the most part, our marriage was filled with happiness. But everything changed recently. The revelation came just after Christmas during a small reunion with some of my wife's college friends. The evening was warm, filled with laughter and reminiscing over dinner. At one point, my wife mentioned we met in high school, but didn't clarify that we were actually dating back then. One of her old roommates remarked how incredible it was that we had stayed together after so many years and wild college experiences. I joked, adding that I wasn't sure my wife had been as wild as I had been during those years. But then, as her roommate began to share a story from those times, my wife abruptly cut her off, saying she felt uncomfortable. That caught my attention. Something didn't sit right with me, so I mentioned that we'd been dating throughout her college years, not just knowing each other since high school. An awkward silence fell over the table, and the atmosphere shifted. As we left, one of her other roommates pulled me aside and suggested that I should have an honest conversation with my wife about what really happened during her college years. On the drive home, I couldn't shake the unease. I asked my wife about what her friend had hinted at. She brushed it off, claiming it wasn't a big deal. But her dismissiveness only deepened my suspicions. I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until we could talk about what had really happened. The next day, she came to see me, visibly anxious. And then, she confessed she had slept with several men during her first 2 years of college. She minimized it, saying that she didn't consider it a betrayal at the time because we were long distance, and she didn't think our high school romance would last. That admission hit me like a punch to the gut. I pressed her for more details, and she confessed to sleeping with at least 10 different men, including 3 guys she had introduced me to as friends during my weekend visits. One of them, she was still in contact with. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, betrayal. I knew then that our marriage couldn't survive this. I told her I wanted a divorce and would begin the paperwork immediately. True to my word, I started the process on January 2nd. Her attempts to downplay what she did only reinforced my decision. It wasn't just the infidelity, it was the lies and the disrespect that had gone on for years. Both our families are telling me that I shouldn't throw away our marriage over a few mistakes. They say everyone makes mistakes, and that I should forgive her for the sake of the life we've built. But to me, this isn't about a few mistakes. It's about a repeated betrayal. Cheating with multiple men for 2 years isn't something I can simply overlook, no matter when it happened. The fact that she continued relationships with these men, even introducing them as friends, is a level of disrespect I can't accept. Our children are 17 and 19, practically adults, and I believe they will understand my decision. They've seen us as a loving couple, and I hope they realize that I'm doing this to preserve my self-respect and integrity. I've been bombarded with voices urging me to forgive and forget, to focus on the good times and the years we shared. But how can I, when every memory is now tainted by her betrayal? It's not just the cheating, it's the lies, the deceit, the ongoing relationships with those men. How can I trust her again? I keep questioning myself. Am I overreacting? Am I being too harsh? But then I remember the pain I felt when she admitted to her affairs. I remember the nights I spent wondering how she could introduce me to those men, how she could continue those friendships without feeling guilty. This isn't something I can get over. It's a fundamental breach of trust that has shattered everything we had. Am I wrong for leaving? I don't think so. I feel like I'm fighting for my dignity, my right not to be lied to, not to be disrespected. This isn't about revenge. It's about acknowledging that some lines can't be uncrossed. I'm writing this because my wife and her friends have been telling me that it's normal to sleep with other people in a long-distance relationship, and that I'm the odd one out for not doing the same. I've felt like I'm being gaslit and needed an outside perspective. Since we live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, I thought it would be wise to get some input before everything is set in stone. After hearing these comments, I've seen some people agree that sleeping around in long-distance relationships is common, but that perspective seems to be in the minority. During those 2 years of college, we saw each other a couple of weekends a month. I lived about 3 hours away. It wasn't as though we were separated by an entire country. We didn't go months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were introduced to me casually at parties. They weren't formal introductions, just random meetups where the topic of me being her boyfriend never came up. One of these men is still in our lives because he married a mutual friend. He isn't a secret contact, and we've all stayed in touch for years. After learning about my wife's infidelity, I spoke with him a few times. He had no idea we were dating and blocked my wife on social media out of respect for me. Some people have questioned why her college roommates didn't put the timeline together. The answer lies in how we handled our wedding celebrations. We had a small ceremony in Texas with only close family. Later, we had a larger party for our friends on the East Coast. We skipped the usual wedding reception traditions where couples talk about how they met. Because of this, her roommates never pieced together that we had been dating before she went to college. They assumed we only started dating the year we moved in together. I was open to therapy, hoping we could work through this, but her constant insistence that what she did was normal and that I'm overreacting has been too much for me. She only showed remorse when I began filing for divorce. That brief moment of contrition quickly disappeared, and she reverted to her original stance, telling me I'm the one in the wrong. This back and forth has left me feeling like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious to me that her actions were a major betrayal, yet I'm told by her and others that it's normal, that I'm blowing things out of proportion. Her dismissive attitude has made me question everything. I've tried to explain how deeply her infidelity has hurt me, but instead of understanding, she minimizes it, treating it like nothing more than an overreaction. It feels like she's rewriting the rules of our relationship, expecting me to accept them without question. I'm being manipulated into doubting my own feelings, and it's tearing me apart. In the end, I know I made the right choice for me, but the emotional toll of this betrayal and the constant invalidation of my feelings has been more than I can bear. The issue isn't just the cheating, it's her inability to understand why it's such a betrayal and why I feel so deeply hurt. I've reached a point where I have to prioritize my own mental and emotional well-being. I can't stay in a marriage where my feelings are dismissed and my trust has been shattered. Her lack of genuine remorse and her insistence that I'm the one who's in the wrong make it impossible to see a future together. I'm not overreacting. I'm standing up for myself and my right to a respectful, honest relationship. As for a paternity test, I won't do it unless my kids ask for one themselves. I know they are my biological children, and even if a test showed otherwise, my love for them wouldn't change. They've been my kids for 19 years, and nothing will alter that. We were definitely exclusive in our relationship. Dating culture was different 20 years ago, and exclusivity was understood to be the norm. There wasn't this casual dating or open relationship mentality. We talked seriously about staying faithful when she went to college, and she even joked that her dad would come after me if I was with other girls. That joke wasn't lighthearted, it showed how serious she was about us being exclusive. When I suggested going to prom with a platonic female friend, she got upset, which reinforced that we were committed to each other. I ended up skipping prom and spending the night with her because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. We didn't need to say the word exclusive because it was clear from everything we'd discussed and done that we were. Later, a friend suggested I have an honest conversation with my wife, and she revealed that my wife had been with at least 10 guys, including one pregnancy scare. What really hurts, though, isn't the number of men, it's that my wife can't seem to understand why this was wrong and why I feel betrayed. She's shown no desire to fix this, only telling me that I'm overreacting to behavior she considers normal. She didn't express regret until I mentioned divorce, and even then, it was more about the consequences than about the hurt she caused me. Her lack of remorse, her focus on damage control, rather than repairing our relationship, has made it clear she doesn't grasp the gravity of her betrayal. It's not just about the infidelity, it's about her continued disregard for my feelings. That's why I'm moving forward with the divorce. We can co-parent our kids financially. We're both stable, and I've been saving for their future for years. Custody and financial matters shouldn't be an issue. I'm open to therapy if she's willing, but right now, it's more about closure and moving on. I've already taken steps, hiring a lawyer to draft an intent to separate, which I've sent to her. This isn't the official divorce paperwork yet, but it's the first step. We're not legally divorced yet, but I've made it clear I'm serious about this. I've been staying at my brother's place while I figure out the next steps. As for what I found out about her college years, after talking to her former roommates, it became clear they suspected cheating. She'd told them we worked things out before marriage, but they were uncomfortable with the fact that she never mentioned it to me. One of her exes is now married to one of our mutual friends, and she kept in contact with him during our therapy sessions. My wife initially tried to shift blame onto me, but she now admits it was wrong. Looking back, she tried to hide her actions, but it was clear she had trouble separating her college life from our relationship. She says it wasn't serious because none of these men were in relationships with her, but that doesn't change the fact that her actions were a betrayal to me. For me, the nature of her relationships with them doesn't matter. It's the dishonesty and disrespect that hurts the most. We never agreed that certain behaviors were acceptable. In fact, she had consistently discouraged me from doing the same. The double standard was undeniable and only deepened my sense of betrayal. Over 2 therapy sessions, and after speaking with some of her friends, my wife began to see things differently. She now acknowledges that her actions breached the trust that formed the foundation of our relationship. This new understanding has helped us shift from heated arguments to more productive, open conversations. Though saving our marriage feels out of reach, the ability to communicate honestly about our past is crucial for building a healthier future. This change gives me some hope for our future as co-parents. While I'm no longer hopeful about the marriage itself, I believe that maintaining a respectful and open dynamic will benefit our children as we navigate this challenging journey of co-parenting. Now, here's why I am fully committed to moving forward with a divorce. Two key revelations made it clear that ending the marriage was the only option. First, we went through a tough time about 10 years ago, and for nearly 2 years, there was no intimacy in our relationship. When I tried to reignite some excitement with light roleplay, she revealed she was still fixated on experiences from her college days, experiences she never felt comfortable discussing. She wanted me to recreate them, but when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty, reminding her of other men. The fact that she insists these experiences were meaningless, but they still affect our marriage, tells me they were more significant than she's willing to admit. The second issue came when she confessed to flirting with coworkers during business trips since the pandemic ended. Although she claims nothing physical happened, it eventually progressed to the point where she went on a date with one of her colleagues. That was the final deal breaker for me. These revelations shattered any remaining trust I had. We've informed our children about the divorce, explaining that it stems from poor decisions made long ago, decisions we've been unable to move past. During this conversation, our 19-year-old, who's currently in college, asked if I had been unfaithful while my wife was away. This caught my wife off guard, but she bravely admitted that she was the one who had cheated. We agreed to protect our children from the more painful details of our past, emphasizing that despite the separation, we remain fully committed to their well-being. I reassured them that we are in therapy, working to handle the divorce in the best way possible for our family. I also made it clear that if they ever need to talk, whether with us or a therapist, they have my full support. Their emotional health is a priority for both of us, and we are committed to navigating this difficult time together. We're now working with a mediator to figure out the logistics of the divorce. Unless something unexpected happens, it seems we'll be able to part ways amicably. Financially, we're both stable and the kids are older, so custody isn't a major concern. The past few months have been challenging, but I'm managing, and I'm thankful that my last post received so much attention. It helped validate my feelings and encouraged me to seek counseling. My 19-year-old daughter has had her own struggles with relationships. She's been hurt by boyfriends who cheated or abruptly left her. I understand why her initial assumption might have been that I was the one who cheated. Seeing me leave the house may have felt like an admission of guilt to her. But when my wife admitted she was the one who was unfaithful, it put things into perspective. I'm not overly concerned about how the narrative is perceived. My wife hasn't said anything negative about me to the kids, and her readiness to move on with the divorce finalized just 6 weeks after we started the process suggests she's more prepared to move forward than I am. It stings a bit to see her walking away from a 20-year marriage so easily, but I'm slowly coming to terms with it. It's a bit ironic, though, that during our divorce mediation, she pointed out that we're still legally married until the divorce is finalized. She mentioned that any infidelity during this time could affect our amicable settlement, which felt strange considering the divorce itself is rooted in infidelity. Still, she was visibly annoyed when this topic was raised. At the end of the day, I'm doing my best to come to terms with the end of our marriage. I've been attending therapy on my own to help me cope. I'm mentally preparing for the likelihood of encountering the coworker she dated, but I'm hopeful I'll find a new place and move out before the divorce is finalized. If everything goes smoothly, we should be divorced by summer. Update: my wife and I have finalized our divorce. It was an uncontested process, with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers worked together to draft an agreement through mediation, and a judge signed it a few weeks ago. The biggest complication was related to our 17-year-old, who wanted to stay with me due to a strained relationship with my ex-wife. Initially, my wife resisted, but eventually, she agreed to give him space to rebuild their relationship. We reached an agreement for me to have primary custody until his 18th birthday later this year. Throughout this time, I've encouraged my son to remain open to mending things with his mother, as she did love and care for him for 17 years. As the divorce proceeded, I noticed my son spending more time with his mother, which gives me hope they'll eventually reconcile. We've divided our retirement funds and investments equally, with my wife keeping the house. She took out a mortgage to pay me half of its equity and the value of the furniture. We kept our cars, and personal items were easily divided. Anything harder to split was sold, and we split the profits. Things have been going well for me personally. Both kids spend most of their time at my place, and we've maintained a close relationship, which was my biggest concern. I've moved into a new house, and I love it. It's a fresh start. I even traded my old minivan for a sleek Lexus LC 550, which has surprisingly brought me joy. A woman from a different department at work invited me out for coffee. I was upfront about not being ready to date yet, but she was understanding and offered to take a rain check. She's smart, funny, and we work in different departments, so there's no awkwardness at work. My ex and I are still attending counseling, but now it's focused on closure and co-parenting. These sessions have been invaluable in helping us process everything. They've also confirmed that divorce was the right decision. It's become clear that my wife started dating soon after the divorce began, which signals that whatever love we had was already fading. Surprisingly, seeing her bring the coworker to our recent session didn't upset me. That's a sign I'm ready to move on too. Healing from the betrayal will take time, but I'm making progress. Over the past few months, I've shed more tears than in the last 20 years combined, but I've genuinely started to feel good about myself again. I'm enjoying my newfound independence, staying busy, and looking forward to that coffee date. Going through this divorce has taught me the importance of honest communication. I wish we'd been more transparent with each other from the start. That honesty could have prevented a lot of pain for both of us. It's a lesson I'll carry into all my future relationships, romantic and otherwise. Most importantly, I've learned that I have the strength to rebuild and move on, despite the heartache. I'm feeling good about myself again. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more real-life stories happening around you.